Perception, it's a topic in organizational behavior during the MBA program. Basically, we don't see the world, we perceive the world. The reality or the world around us, we see it or perceive it through our senses, five senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. So we basically collect impressions about the world through our senses. That is the basic source of our information and knowledge about the world. And hence, it is possible that our knowledge about the world is flawed, not accurate. Because we don't see the world as it is, we perceive it through our senses. Because our senses are not necessarily perfect. My senses are not accurate as yours. I have got glasses, now I have removed those glasses, my perception differs. Some people have color blindness. So there are differences in senses. Some people have sharper senses, some people have duller senses. So since our senses differ, our senses may lead us astray. And what we perceive to be truth is our perception of the truth, not the truth itself. So our perception may be flawed, may be inaccurate, may be wrong. Similarly, others' perception may also be flawed, inaccurate, and wrong. And we make errors while perceiving things. Everything, I mean, it's about people or anything outside of us, even about us maybe. So there are errors, we are prone to making those errors. Others are also prone to making those errors. So we must be aware about these and be on guard against making errors or try to rectify those errors. There is selective perception. We only see things that we want to see, or we selectively interpret things. And this perception is influenced by our interest, our background, our attitudes, our experience. So things like background, experience, attitudes, interest would color our perception as it would do so in others. So we make these perception errors about reality, about what the truth is or what the reality is. We do, others do. So selective perception is one such error. Attribution error. Sometimes when others do things, we try to overestimate the internal factor and underestimate the external factor. If somebody has done wrong, we think he has done it because of his own problems, his own internal badness, rather than situations. And when it comes to us, we do the other thing. That is called self-serving bias. If we are successful, we say it was because of us. And if we fail, we attribute it to external factors beyond our control. So when it comes to others, we make this fundamental attribution error that we overestimate the internal factors and underestimate the external factors while judging about the behavior of others. And when it comes to us, we say we are very selective. We say if we succeeded, it was because of us, and if we failed, it was because of something else, factors beyond our control. So these are perception errors, not necessarily true or accurate. There is halo effect. We make an overall impression about somebody, a general impression, just based on one characteristic, something like first impression. First impression is the last impression. We see somebody and make a very quick shortcut kind of a thing based on an aura or a halo or an impression that that person creates in our mind, and then everything else is colored by that. If that person creates a good impression, he is always good for us. That is not true. So first impression should not be the last impression. We must be open to new experience and new data and new evidence. It should not be set in stone. We do stereotyping, we do generalizations. Men are like this, women are like this, children are like this, Indians are like this. So we stereotype. Indians are this, Gujaratis are like this, Surtis are like this, businessmen are like this, politicians are like this. So we stereotype politicians. All politicians, according to us, are similar. All Indians are similar. But there are differences. We know that. There are individual differences. So stereotyping is, we are making this generalization. And then every member, we apply the same stereotype or generalization to that, though it may not be correct or true or accurate. We we also do things like projection. We assume others are like us. So if we are corrupt, we find it impossible that somebody may be honest. If we are honest, we find it difficult that others can be corrupt. We think everybody thinks like us, but it is not true. People have differences. People have different personalities, different interests, different motivations, different attitudes. We are similar and alike in many areas, and there are also a lot of dissimilarities and differences. So these are some of the errors in perception that we make, others also make, and we have to remind ourselves to be on guard against it and know that others are also making these mistakes, and maybe try to correct our perceptions, maybe try to correct others' perceptions, which is more difficult, but at least we can do it for ourselves. There is also something called fallacies, logical fallacies, which is connected to this topic. Uh, for example, not exactly part of perception, but it is about thinking errors or logical errors in logic. So I thought I should include them. Like some fallacies I'll discuss, some fallacies and some biases. We have talked of self serving bias when we talk about success being ours and failure being because of some other factor. We also have confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is generally we try to find things that support our beliefs. We disregard things that oppose our beliefs. If there is data or evidence, we generally are blind to the data or the evidence that goes against our beliefs, already held beliefs, and only pick or select or perceive that information which reinforces our beliefs. That is called confirmation bias. That is also some sort of a fallacy or a bias. We also suffer from optimism bias. Perhaps that is a necessary survival strategy, but we refuse to believe that bad things will happen or bad things will happen to us. Everybody is going to die. We somehow know it vaguely for ourselves, but somehow, I don't know, it's very difficult for us to accept our own death. Yudhishthir Yaksha Prashna in Mahabharat, kind of a thing. So, Corona came, nobody was ready to accept, came again, wave upon wave, difficult to accept, right? We keep on negating bad things. So sometimes we are escaping reality, and it's not good, it's not healthy. We say hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So hoping for the best is good, but we should prepare for the worst. But when it comes to that part, we lag. We don't do that much. So we have a problem in that. Optimism bias is sometimes it is necessity because it gives us courage to survive. So in a way, it helps us. Galib talked about the reality of heaven, and we all know whether heaven exists or not, but we need that myth or illusion to keep us happy or something like that. So optimism bias, these are biases. There are fallacies. You can look them up on internet. There are lots of resources available. I am just discussing some. Ad hominem is a logical fallacy, which is about personal attack. When I am saying something and you don't agree with me, you discredit me by other means. You don't discredit my argument. You don't argue against what I said. You say this guy is bad, this guy is corrupt, this guy is this, that, or the other. Find out bad stuff about me, which has nothing to do with the content of what I'm saying, the logic of what I'm saying. You can't discredit or dispute my logic, so you try to discredit my personality, my background, character assassinations. Politicians do this all the time. I have a logical point. Whether I'm good, bad, ugly is separate. You have a logical point. Let's discuss that point that you have put forward. And if I can't refute your point or dispute your point or negate your point, I'll say you are stupid, you are idiot, you are bad, you are this, you are that. You find out something, some negative stuff about that person's, your opponent's background. That is personal attack rather than attacking the logic of the proposition that that fellow is making. That is a fallacy. It's not true, but we do this all the time. Post hoc ergo propter hoc. After this, therefore, because of this. There is correlation and there is causation. Things are correlated. There is some connection. And things are caused. One cause leads to effect. If I bang my head against the wall, pain will happen. I'll experience pain. So banging the head is the cause, pain is the effect. Cause always comes before effect. So generally, when something happens after another thing, we think the first thing is the cause. Well, cause and effect are like that, but sometimes they are not necessarily caused, they are correlated. Something happens and something happens after it, that is just a random occurrence. But even if it is random, we somehow think the first thing caused the other. That is again a logical fallacy. We have to be careful that correlation or sequence is not always causation. Cause does precede effect, effect does follow cause, but every relationship, every time one thing happens after another, is doesn't mean the first thing caused the other. Not every time. Tu cock or you too, these are Latin terms. When I am saying making an accusation, you make again the same accusation against me. I am saying you did this, you did that. You don't defend my accusations, but you said, oh, you also did the same thing. Politicians keep on doing this. Party X said, oh, you are doing this bad thing. Party Y said, but you did the same when you were in power. Party Y doesn't say, look, this is wrong, we accept, or no, it is not true, or something. They kind of turn the table on the other party. So again, not discussing the accusation itself, but saying, well, you are guilty. Fine, they are guilty, but what about your guilt? Talk about your guilt. The issue here is your guilt. So that is, you did do. So I don't have to defend myself. That's not logical, but we generally do this. If I say something, if I'm a smoker and I tell you not to smoke, you say first you give up smoking, then preach. Why? I mean, smoking is bad. Is it wrong when I say it is bad? No, it is not wrong. But I'm not credible if I am smoking and tell you not to smoke. Well, that is human nature. It is not logical. Who says shouldn't matter. What is said should matter. But we can't separate who says from what he says. If the non-smoker says, we are really ready to, more prepared to accept. If a smoker says, we are not that ready to accept. Which is not illogical, but well, we are not completely logical people. So we make those errors, not being very logical about it. So these are the things that one must guard against. Fallacies and biases, logical fallacies you can find on the internet if you search. The other part of this is impression. People perceive us. So if we want to be, we are doing a good job, but we are not perceived to be good performers, then that's a problem. So what we learn here is that perceptions matter a lot. Truth is fine, but people are not seeing the truth. They are perceiving something. I am a good performer, but I must be seen to be a good performer. Otherwise, my performance will go waste and I won't be rewarded for it. So we must understand that not doing a good job is not enough. We must also be seen to be doing a good job. Like, the Caesar's wife must not only be irreproachable, she must be seen to be irreproachable. Ram, Sita and Dhobi, washerman in Ramayana. Dhobi made that character allegation and Ram abandoned Sita. Sita was blameless, but the perception was that she was not blameless. And the person the queen cannot be seen to be at fault, though she is not at fault. So you have to, those in higher positions have to keep themselves to a higher standard. So the point is, manage perceptions about you, manage impressions around you. If you are a good performer and if you want to be recognized for your performance, then you must create the perception also. You can't just be a silent performer and assume that everybody will take note, right? Thank you.